2 years ago, in May 2019, one of our church family, Bill Salmon, passed away. His sister Lynn and Bill's son had airline reservations to come to visit him from the East Coast, but sadly, Bill passed away 6 days before they were to arrive. Lynn kept her reservation since she would be involved in clearing out his estate with Bill's friend Nancy. She also stayed for the celebration of life that was held at the Corbin Senior Center, where Bill was an active member and also served on the board of directors. I met Lynn during this time. I had heard a lot about her from Bill. I met her here in Spokane, and we became Facebook friends. Quite a while back, Lynn contacted me wanting to donate a tree here at Covenant in memory of her brother. I let Pastor Roger know, and they were in contact. Winter was soon upon us, and then COVID. But in the fall of last year, the tree from Lynn was purchased and planted, and a plaque from her is also ready to be presented here. The wording on the plaque, which Lynn thought would be nice, includes Bill's favorite Bible verse from Matthew 19:26. With God, all things are possible. Lynn also chose the line following that, which says, Bill loved his church. As I look at his church involvement over the years, I find this to be most fitting. He faithfully attended the Wednesday night prayer group. He was a model of faithfulness as he kept an upbeat attitude throughout his 10-year struggle with cancer. Bill was a regular at Covenant's adult ed classes. Education was of importance to him, having worked his way through college to eventually earn a PhD in business management. Church gatherings such as potlucks and other fellowship events were supported by Bill, where he enjoyed greeting his church friends. During the last year of his life, he helped me a few times at the welcome table on Sunday mornings. On one of those Sundays, he had warmly greeted 2 newcomers in the parking lot, giving them such a warm welcome that they commented most favorably about it in the bulletin's comment section, and they continued to come back also. On Sunday mornings, he especially liked sitting with his special friends, Gordon and Barb Misko up here, and he liked sitting up near the front of the sanctuary where he could hear well. As Bill exited the sanctuary on Sunday mornings, he often dipped his fingertips in the covered baptismal fount found in the door leading into the fellowship area. It was placed there for anyone to partake in remembering their baptism. During Bill's last half year of life, when health issues limited his time at church, he always loved receiving the church bulletins, the church newsletter, and his favorite devotional, The Upper Room. And he appreciated the visits, gifts, and goodies, the prayers, the cards, and the thoughtfulness from his church family. As I conversed with Lynn, she told me that church was always an important part of their growing up years. Bill and his mother lived with his maternal grandparents during his first 5 years of his life on a small dairy farm in New Jersey. While Bill's father, a Marine, was overseas during and after World War II. His grandparents, whom he loved dearly, were very involved in the Baptist church, so that was his earliest exposure to church. Then when his father returned, the family was reunited, moving to a small town about 90 miles from the grandparents. 2 more children were born, and there the family became quite involved in the Presbyterian church. And many, many years later, Bill moved to Spokane in 2012 and started attending here at Covenant United Methodist. And as the plaque states here, Bill did believe that with God all things are possible, and he did love his church, and he also loved God. And now back to the tree. When I first spoke with Lynn about the tree, I asked her what type she would like. She thought that a maple tree would be nice since Bill grew up in New Jersey where maples were plentiful. So now Covenant's co-leader, Marty Keeling, also a master gardener, will tell us a little about the tree, and then following that, Gordon Misko here will unveil the plaque, which is veiled with the prayer blanket that Bill loved. It was made for him years ago by the women's group of our church, including his friend Nancy Morlock.
Thank you, Sharon. I also want to thank Malin Dirks for helping me plant the tree. He did most of the digging, which was most of the real hard labor. And Sharon spent a lot of time, which I appreciate, with Bill's sister. Given that he wanted a maple tree, we wanted to plant it in the little area just as you go into the church on the right. What I selected was a Japanese maple called the Emperor One. And that is a tree that will grow to about 15 feet high by 15 wide, so it's good for that space. It's got a graceful form. It grows with a reddish black bark and very dark red leaves that turn scarlet in the fall. It buds out in late spring, which is good for our weather conditions, so it's not likely to get nipped. And it's an ideal colorful specimen for a smaller landscape or a contemplative spot. It likes sun, and I think it will be a great tree representing Bill. And just on a personal note, as we talked earlier about Lamentations, I can't wait till we get back into our sanctuary fully. I don't think I can ever fully grieve George Newell and Bill Salmon until I can be in that sanctuary and see them not sitting where they've always sat. And but I also know with all of my heart that Bill and George are seeds in heaven, and they are going to bear a lot of fruit. So thank you. Oh, and this is a picture of the tree at fullness. You can't see it real well from here. It was taken off the internet, but that's what it looks like. Thank you.
I wasn't really supposed to be talking, but I can't pass up this opportunity. Bill and I met several years ago, and we became good friends. And if you know Bill and you know me, we're polar opposites. But we had a good friendship. I loved the lunches that we had together and the conversations. But the one thing that goes along with today with the laments, Bill would often say to me, I should have done what my dad did and been a Marine. And I told him, you would have been a good one. He was the strongest, most determined person I've ever seen. He never complained of his pain that he was enduring the entire time. And if you ever noticed him walking in from the parking lot way down at the end, and he was staggering all over the sidewalk, that shows how much determination and strength Bill had. I will miss him, and he's a good friend.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Marty, and thank you, Gordon and Bob. And as Bob unveils the plaque, perhaps I'll just read it to you in memory of Dr. William D. Salmon, Ph.D. With God, all things are possible, Matthew 19:26. Bill loved his church, lovingly presented by his sister, Lynn. So this beautiful tree with this rock with plaque will be placed beneath that maple tree that Marty described, and invite you at the end of the service. It won't be there yet because it's going to be difficult to move, but to visit the tree and to lay some ashes in memory of Bill. And so as we gather during this Spring Fest worship service, we have lamented, but we have also celebrated the promise and the assurance that new life comes in the blessing of seeds and the promise that the seeds bring. We have also remembered one who was dearly loved by this congregation and so appreciated, who gave a very generous gift, leaving it to Covenant, a portion of which will be seeding, once again, the future ministries of Covenant United Methodist Church. I now invite Rick Thomas forward as we launch our Covenant Endowment Fund, looking to the future. Covenant is strong, and we're determined that it will grow stronger.
Thank you, Roger. And as he said, I'm Rick Thomas, and I'm co-chair of the Covenant Endowment Fund. And my other co-chair is Brenda Buman. And Brenda says her best wishes. She and Robert are in Colorado, moving their daughter Alexandra to her new job in Oregon. So pray for them as they travel the long trip today. I'd like to introduce the rest of the committee as Joel Ferris, Kay Van DeLeese, Craig Tashida, Gordon Misko, Chuck Anderson, Tom Morlock, and I'd also like to thank Teresa Sherman and Pastor Roger for their input over the past year. But hallelujah and praise the Lord. The Covenant Endowment Fund is now a reality thanks to the generous gift of Bill Salmon. He blessed his church with his presence and now this gift. And how appropriate it is today when we bless the seeds. That's what Bill gave. He gave us a seed to start this endowment, and it's going to grow and be around for many years. The endowment was chartered by a vote of the church conference on January 12th, 2020. The Covenant Endowment Fund is a permanent fund established so that the values and legacy of Christian faith shown by our members can live on to further God's work for generations to come. The Covenant Fund is built entirely upon the vision and generosity of the Covenant members and is totally separate from the church operating budget. Available funds are distributed to support above and beyond normal budgeted items. These funds will be invested by the committee in the Northwest United Methodist Foundation of our Pacific Northwest Conference. In the future, we will be having seminars and classes in the coming weeks, months, and year that will answer a lot of questions and give guidance to people who may be interested in giving to the endowment. These classes will be presented by the conference advisors and members of Covenant that are versed in gifting. As you all came in, you were given two brochures. The one I'd like to thank Chuck and Linda for helping us with this Covenant brochure on the Endowment Fund. But if you open it, it tells you what the Endowment Fund is, what it's meant to be, and the endowment gifts can be used to begin ministries for which there is no funding, support new programs, and provide additional support for existing members. One of the important things is, how large does my gift have to be? Let me assure you, there is no gift too small or too large. It will not be accepted. Every dollar increases the earning power of the fund while remaining specific to its designated purpose. And then, how can I give? Wills, stocks, trusts, memorial gifts, life insurance, real estate property, and historic cash. And the second brochure is from our Northwest Conference, and it explains, how you can do it through wills, annuities, charitable trusts, etc. and what the benefit is to you. And I encourage everybody to consider it and give to the endowment. And there's you can talk to myself or Brenda or anybody on the committee if you need further information, and we can get you contact with the proper people. Again, I want to thank Bill Salmon and his legacy that he left to this church, that he will always be remembered. Thank you.